Good afternoon, everyone. How's everything going? Great, great. Actually, I texted my friend earlier, and they can't believe I'm giving a peanut talk here. The reason why is, as you can see, English is not my first language, and the peanuts is a word of fear for me. Often I pronounce it as a different word. You all got it, right? So, if I speak too fast, I happen to pronounce something a little bit different, I'm not mean to do it, okay? Cool. So now, let's switch a gear a little bit, talk about chicken. The first thing I want to show you, have you ever seen this chicken before? Anyone has an idea what this chicken is? This chicken is the oldest chicken in the world, and it just holds a Guinness World Record by turning 21 years old. But most interesting part is if you take a closer look at it, her name is a peanut. So this is one of the first non-scientific evidence that the peanuts can make a chicken live longer. Okay? Okay, let's start from there then. Cool. Before I start my topic, I want to ask how many people in the room actually working with animals? Just raise your hand or have experience. Thank you, Dr. Lu. Cool. Okay, 2 people. Okay, so I'm going to spend around 5 minutes. Let's catch up some basics in poultry nutrition. That will help us to understand how the peanuts and its byproducts fit into this story. So let's start some poultry nutrition 101. So what we cover about nutrition? This is a cost breakdown for the poultry production. As you can see, that's a 70% in blue color take a majority of the cost, which is actually the nutrition is usually around 70% of the total cost. It is a challenge, but also opportunity. As we know, this nutrition or nutrient need to be provided through the feed. And in order to understand what kind of nutrient we need to provide for the chicken, first we have to understand what is build life. So right now on this planet, we have 118 elements available. Just to take a guess, how many elements is important or essential to build a life? Anyone has an idea? How many elements is needed? Just take a guess. Any numbers? What? 6. Wow. Any different numbers? 20? Very close. Actually, we only need 19 elements to build a life. Of course, they're in different quantities, so we separate them by the bulk element, macro element, and trace element. So these elements are actually the basics of nutrition because the birds are what they eat. Same for our human beings. So if you look into what they can make, you will see they can make a water, protein, carbohydrates, lipids, minerals, and vitamins. These are 6 categories of nutrients that humans need and also chicken need. However, for the chicken industry, we also have another category called non-nutritive additives, which did not contain significant nutrients, but can promoting the nutrient utilization and the bird health. We'll talk about this more when we talk about one of the byproducts in peanuts. Cool. So now, since we have so many nutrients to talk about, but today I'm going to focus on one of the most delicate nutrient called protein, because the peanuts has a lot of protein in there as well. Let's see how the peanuts fit into this story. So what is a protein? What is a made protein? Let's ask this a different way. What's the difference between the protein in the feed and the meat and the eggs? What makes them different? In order to answer this question, first we need to know what is made protein, right? The protein is made by the amino acid. You may hear lysine, methionine, threonine, arginine, all these terminologies. We have a total 20 amino acids available to make protein, and 10 of them is essential for the chicken, and 9 of them is essential for the human. So when these amino acids connect together, they become a chain and form something called peptide. When the peptide rotating together, connect with each other, become a 3D structure, it's become a protein. Because different amino acid composition, the way how they link together, they make different type of protein. That's make the protein different in the feed and in the meat. And we know chicken is really good at this. They can change the plant protein into delicious meat and eggs. However, how this process happened, how to make this more efficient, that's involved in the concept I'm going to introduce you now, is not only about the quantity of protein, but also about the composition of the protein, which is amino acid. So in nutrition, we always use a barrel theory to talk about this. So look at this barrel. If you have one with amino acid, here is a lysine, it's a shortage. Even though you have other amino acid over there in the same protein, but this barrel cannot hold a lot of water, which means if you're providing a protein like this to the birds, they cannot produce a meat and egg efficiently. The only way to solve it is to make up the gap. So the sufficient production for poultry, meat, and egg, not only about the quantity of a protein, but also the quality of protein, which is the ratio of amino acid. That gave our foundation of comparing the peanut protein profile with other ingredients to see what the advantage and deficiency is. Okay, a lot of poultry nutrition today, but now let's dive into today's topic. And before that, just want to give you a little bit mindset about nutritionists. Like when in a poultry industry, we're looking for new ingredients, we're always looking for new ingredients and alternatives. What is considerations? First of all, availabilities. There's no perfect formulation, but only a proper formulation. You can see the feed across the world in different states may be different, just simply because of availability of ingredients. And of course, price play a major role. And nutritionist is cheap, and chicken, because we play safe. We want something really cheap. And nutrient availability, of course, is about the math to make the cheapest diet and most nutrient diet. And the physical form also important. Like for example, the match form or particle size uniformity can play a role in making decision. And at the last is anti-nutrient factors. If you grow the peanuts or you grow different plants, you know these plants have a natural defense system to reduce pest infestation. And these chemicals can become anti-nutrient factor for the animals that avoid nutrient utilization. So that's also the consideration for some ingredients. Okay, with all of that, if you look at all these factors consequently to shape the formulation in the United States, you will see that's how the formulation may look like. It's a typical formulation for a broader diet. It's a lot going on, I know, but I want you to take a look at the top two ingredients, corn and soybean meal, which take almost like 90% of space for the whole formulation. Corn mainly providing the starch, the energies, but soybean meal is one of the major sources for the protein. And soybean meal being largely produced in the US. However, in Georgia, we have a largest poultry industry, but we don't have enough soybean meal. So the only way we can do is to import it from the Midwest and ship all the way to Georgia to provide the protein source for the chicken. It is still good protein source, but I see opportunity that it can be replaced by something else. And one of the things we're talking about is peanuts byproducts. So you know this better than I do, but so far what I learned is peanuts can produce several byproducts, including the peanut meal after the oil extraction, peanut skin, and the peanut shells. Today I will only talk about the first two. The last one, peanut shells, people using it, mostly in Asian area. I came from China. We produce a lot of peanuts, and the feed in China is crazy. You see all the kind of ingredients, which include the peanut shell. However, it is very low in nutrient and have a higher aflatoxin. It's very dangerous to use it. It's not become a practice here in the US. We have a much more other ingredients available, so I won't talk about that today. However, poultry people did use a peanut shell as a bedding material for chicken. It's pretty cheap, it's widely available, and it's do the work. The only challenge for that is it has a lower absorbance for the water, so you usually have to increase the thickness of a binding materials compared to the pan shavings to make that work. Okay? Cool. So first one, peanut meal in poultry. Before we talk about this, first of all, definitely it's cheaper compared to soybean meal, which is great, but I also want to know the nutrition profile. When you look at this nutrition profile, crude protein-wise, actually it's pretty good compared to soybean. It's even a little bit higher than the soybean from this sample. And all the rest, nutrient is pretty comparable, so it's pretty good. However, when we dive into a little bit on the protein side, when we compare to the amino acid, you will see there's some challenge. At the first, lysine and methionine plus cysteine, these are first one or two limiting amino acid in the diet formulation. It can be really expensive, but you can see the soybean meal has a lower lysine content compared to the soybean. So in that case, we never use a peanut meal in poultry. We have to add additional lysine into it. That can be potentially additional cost, but as long as economical feasible, that can happen. But on the other side, peanut meal has much higher arginine, which is great for antioxidant capacity and the muscle growth. So that can be potentially a way to save some money on that part if the arginine becomes limiting in the diet. But again, it's pretty optimal in terms of nutrition profile to me. However, do you know how much peanut meal actually being used in the poultry industry right now? Do you have a guess? If they use it? Zero? We can be a little bit more optimistic. Actually, diet formulation is very confidential between the producers. I cannot really tell what they use. But in general, people do use peanut meal in different companies. However, they only limit to 3 to 4%, no more than 5%. Why is they doing this? They're cheaper. They have a pretty good nutrient profile, but they still use very less. That's the two major concerns. One is the phytate, anti-nutrient factor we mentioned earlier. What is the phytate? It naturally exists in a lot of grains and plants. It looks like this. It's a trap all the phosphorus in the structure, make them unavailable to the birds. Even though they have a lot of phosphorus, they cannot use it. However, what makes it worse is they're also binding with the other nutrient at the same time to reduce the other nutrient availability for the birds. So that's become a problem. But we do have a solution already called the phytase. You can add this enzyme in the feed to break the structure, releasing additional nutrients for the birds. So it's not really a problem. You can also do the same job using a fermentation process. But what is make poultry people more concerned is aflatoxins. Because the first speaker talked about aflatoxin contamination across the world is a big concern. And we don't have a program to test them really regularly, so there's a risk to including aflatoxin in the birds, which can reduce the performance. In order to minimize aflatoxin, the safer way to do is to reduce inclusion rate. So that's the true reason why it is really low in poultry diet. So now the question is what we can do. I've been looking into literature and talking to people. There's several potential solutions, but one of them I feel personally more optimal is solid state fermentation. It has many advantages. It's all on the slide, I won't go through each of them, but basically, it can increase nutrient availability. And one of the fermentation with a specific bacteria actually can reduce aflatoxin. That poses very promising ways to our potential revenues to increase the inclusion of a peanut meal in the poultry. Cool. So let's switch gear a little bit. One of my favorite part for the peanuts, which is the skins. Peanut skin has a really beautiful name in Chinese, and it used to be a Chinese medicine for a long, long time. And people using it to treat certain inflammation and use it as antioxidant, like drugs. The reason why is because peanut skin contains a lot of phenols, and these phenols either has antimicrobiome capacity, antioxidant capacity, or some other beneficial impact. And also it's considered pretty good amount of different minerals, even though other nutrients like protein is not significant. When you look at peanut skin, one of the potential applications really excited poultry people is because of customer pressure, we are trying to move more antibiotic-free production, and we don't really have any antibiotic available for some of the farm. So peanut skin can potentially play a role in this story. A lot of people has done many research. In vitro, basically you do in the lab, they have a really nice antimicrobiome capacities for these major bacteria that we're concerned. Even have some antifungal property, which is very interesting. However, when you look into feeding the peanut skin in the poultry, it doesn't work that well. As you can see for this particular trial, when the birds challenge the salmonella, one of the foodborne pathogen concern, you will see some numerically drop when we put the 4% peanut skin in the diets, in the fecal litter and the feed. However, it's not really significant. So what happened? Why it shows really good result in vitro, but it doesn't work in the animals? That's the two potential hypotheses we have. First is availability. When you put something in the mouth and expecting everything goes through the whole gut, gizzard, everything to the lower gut to work, how much may left at the lower gut? That delivery can be a problem. And second is stability. You put what you have in the mouth, but you have different pH, different enzyme going through, by the end of the day, what you got at the end, you don't really know. So these can be a problem. Well, you can say, why not just increase the concentration then? Then you have a more effective material in the lower gut. It can be done, but research already shown if you put more than 5%, that can cause a problem on the performance. So you cannot really do that. So what is the potential solution? We do have a faculty at the food science did something really interesting, which is to concentrate and stabilize the phenol product in the peanut skin. I won't spend too much time for the process, but in brief, it's alkaline acid process using alkaline to extract the phenol product and bring the pH back to have a stable solution. It's not only concentrate the phenol, but also stabilize as a complex structure. Just some really quick overlook on the data. As you can see, after this process, the phenolate content is increased by 2 to almost like a 3% compared to the just traditional water extract or the peanut skin strip. And also the antioxidant capacity also greatly increased. So this liquid can be potentially turned into the powders, even to be coated and for better delivery. So that's a potential using this technology, which is, by the way, very cheap, to concentrate the phenols in peanut skin and potentially become alternative of antibiotic for poultry production. We plan to do more research on the chicken, but we haven't got any data back yet. Just want to let you know that could be a potential way to increase the value of a peanut byproduct. So the last one, before I close the whole presentation, you may have this question. A lot of people are allergic to the peanuts, right? So if you freeze the chicken, can this allergy protein transport into the chicken? What do you think? It's going to happen or not? Anyone have to think about this? Just give you a really quick answer. No, it won't happen. Research already proves that. So it's safe to feed peanuts to the chicken and it won't cause allergy reaction to the people. Just want to let you know. So really quick take-home message. Peanut byproducts do have a nutritional benefit and economic feasibilities in poultry application. For the peanut meal, further processing is important to reduce anti-nutrients and factors and also potentially reduce aflatoxin. That will be the biggest concern. And peanut skin, if you can concentrate the phenol product, that can become a really valuable additives. But again, we need to test more on this part. I didn't talk about high oleic peanuts, which is specialty peanuts. It's actually caught a lot of interest for the poultry people as well. Especially we also have a soybean, high oleic soybean, which can bring additional benefit for the meat quality and egg yolk color. But that could be something we'll talk about later. But again, as Georgia produces a lot of peanuts and the #1 production in poultry, I think there is a lot of opportunities to work together to increase the profit for both communities. Cool, thank you.